So Graham's first question here says, there's so much information. As a brand new trader with limited knowledge, is there a roadmap to follow to learn about options trading? Well, we take the basic steps first, Graham, is what I would do. Ernie put together a webinar a few years ago, very introductory on options. So if you go into your accounts, or if you just go to PowerOptions and click on the Learning Center, even from the main homepage, you can click on the Learning Center. There's Ernie's video here, Introduction to Options. This sort of lays out the basics of options and what you can do as far as hedging, what we can do for income strategy. It's a good starting point. You've probably already gone through some other presentations of this style, but this is always a good approach for us, so you get to know sort of Ernie's approach, his thoughts, and what he thinks new investors and new traders should know. Then for me, the key is you got into options trading, Graham, because of something. Something appealed to you. The idea of making money against your stocks by just selling covered calls. The idea of using leverage to buy calls maybe or buy puts for different market conditions. Using leverage to do spread trades for high return. So you probably already have in mind a plan of what you're interested in doing with options. And I would suggest that you go through and you start with just that one strategy. The one strategy that led you into options, Graham, and to be interested into options as a new trader, whether it be covered calls. You can go through the different help centers here, and there's a variety of different webinars, of course, that are always available in the free webinars section. Maybe it's related to credit spreads. You could take a look at bull put credits, a couple basic help instruction guides here, as well as 2 videos. What is a vertical spread? Talking about a debit or credit spread, and a hands-on look at trading vertical spreads as well. So you want to take the baby steps first, know the strategy, know the risks. What we do a lot is we teach a lot about the risks that are involved with the strategy as well as the benefits. You'll never hear us stating outright something along the lines of, yes, you can make 300 to 400% on a consistent basis buying calls and buying puts. No. We know that there's risk involved with those strategies. You need to pick the right stocks, and not many investors are going to be successful long-term just buying calls and buying puts. It takes a lot of work and it takes a lot of management. You can't let the long call go to a zero value and take 100% loss. You have to have a game plan in mind for each of those. And in the various webinars for each of the individual strategies, Graham, you'll see some of the basics in addition to management techniques and much, much more. So my advice to any new investor is to really just start off first with just the 1 or 2 strategies that you're interested in and what got you into options and got you into researching options and considering options trading as part of your investment portfolio. Focus on those. Don't bounce around into the next new email that comes out, the next thing you see perhaps on a particular strategy that's not even in your wheelhouse, that you aren't even maybe approved to trade. Don't get drawn off and distracted. We covered that in that video I mentioned recently in regards to how long does it take to learn power options. That also sets up the game plan there, as well as what I would suggest to any new trial member of Power Options who comes into the site, signs up for a trial, logs in the first time, and then stares at this and says, what is going on? Now, yours wouldn't look like this. I've adjusted here. I've put stocks into my watch list and arranged my pods and everything. But okay, I say, yeah, I was interested in covered calls. Okay, got all these tools here. Quick find, what's that? Picks of the day, what's that? Okay, the search tool, let me go into here. The search for new positions and the strategy I'm interested. And then you see a list of trades with various criteria and columns. I understand this can seem overwhelming at first, and it probably looks different than what you might see on your broker as far as a covered call view or a position. And then you scroll down and you have this giant parameter field and you see all these settings and all of these things that just, what are these? How would I use this? How do I know this is a good search? What am I actually looking at? Why did they set these here? Well, in our defaults, we usually put a description there to help you get started. But at the same time, the key is you want to get your hands dirty a little bit. You want to come in and see, okay, what are we looking for here? Return, percent if unchanged, percent if assigned. Okay, kind of understand that. Oh, range in or out of the money. Okay, here's delta. I've heard of that before. Probability. What's that? So you can just hover over it. You'll see a description there as well. But you want to get your hands dirty and start doing it. And then, of course, as you're going through the trial, if that's where you're starting right now, And we mentioned the webinars there on the various different tools, various option strategies. You can screen through this to look for things on covered calls, buying calls or puts. Even though I'm not that successful with it or haven't been in my past, you might be pretty good at it. And if that's your approach, you'd look at there. Some options concepts, look at the probability calculation, looking for undervalued options, market sentiment tool, what option strategies are not allowed in IRA accounts, things of that nature, some of the basics. But another great last little bit of here I'll talk about, Graham, another little resource for you as well, of course, is direct YouTube channel. So we go to the YouTube channel and you just search for PowerOptions and you go into videos here, but if you click this magnifying glass while you're in this view, you can search for a particular strategy. So let's say, Graham, you are interested in call buying or what we call long calls. I'll just do a screen for long calls. There we go. 8 ways to manage a profitable long call, diagonal spreads, call spreads versus long calls. But what I would really do is scroll down here, managing your long call positions. Look for ones that are kind of basic, buying out of the money calls and exit strategies. There's that undervalued options again. So you can scroll through these and you'll find a webinar that's maybe just the basics of long calls, or call buying is another screen you could do. As I mentioned before, we could look at covered calls, and you see some information here on rolling, but a covered call approach, far out in time. Why would one use in the money covered calls, rolling a covered call that goes against you, and a lot of other things that we can discuss here as well. Risk and rewards of weekly covered calls. So it's a good starting point and a good basics. That's one other thing that you can do as well. So take a look at some of those. Go through the paths that I mentioned, focus on 1 or 2 strategies. And then, of course, if you're on the trial, remember, as you start going through, you're going to have questions. Click on that free coaching. As a trial member or subscriber, you can schedule as many coaching sessions as you want. So just reserve a time for the strategy. Reserve a time for the session. It's usually a 45-minute phone conversation, Graham, with myself or Ernie. We'll walk you through the tools on the site, answer any questions that you have about options basics, discuss with you what criteria you may need to consider and may not need to consider in a given strategy as well, and point you in the right direction of how to use the tools to find the strategies, find the positions and the strategies you're using that match your risk reward tolerance and your goals as well. That's an approach, Graham, that you can take. And of course, remember, even if you're just getting started, maybe you're not on a trial right now, if you're hearing this webinar or taking a look through the different webinars on YouTube, the different presentations, remember, you can always email us to support@powerop.com with any questions you have, and we'll point you into the direction of some of those introduction videos on options, as well as other concepts and ideas to help you get started and build up and move on from there.